Welcome to the Property Renovation Podcast. For anyone who loves renovation, wants to save money, and to learn the best tips and tricks of the industry. And now, your host, 3 times award winner of leading renovation website House, and over 15 years in the industry, renovating just over 200 properties, James Woodham.
Welcome back to the Property Renovation Podcast. This is episode 4, and on this episode, I thought it would be a good idea to give you 10 questions that you could ask your contractor that you're just about to hire. The reason why I thought about this is because there's many people out there that want to hire a contractor to do their work, and you invite them over, you've given them a series of questions, you feel like you've asked them everything that you wanted to ask them, and then they leave, and then you think about other questions that you wish you did ask them. So I've got 10 questions here that I think are the most important questions that you should be asking. And by the end of that, you should have a good assumption as to whether you should hire that particular contractor. So I'm just going to mention the 10 questions first, and then I'm going to go back and speak about each one. So number 1, how long have you been in business doing this work? Number 2, do you work with your own team or hire subcontractors? Number 3, does your insurance meet the minimum requirement for the work? Number 4, what times do you like to start work? Number 5, how would you be going about protecting my house? 6, can you give me a full specification of work and how long and how you'll be doing? Can you give me a full specification of work and what materials you will be using to do this? Number 7, how long will the work take to do? Number 8, is there anything that I can help with to keep the work on schedule? Number 9, what are the most likely risk factors on the project and the costs associated with them? And then finally, number 10, do you have everything that you need to be happy with the quote that you've given? So let me just go back to number 1. How long have you been in business doing this work? I've spoken to many building companies in the past over many years, and you really shouldn't be hiring anyone that's not worked in the industry for more than 2 years. I've known companies that have worked in the industry from anything between 5 years and 25 years, sometimes 30 years. And that's a good amount of experience. If someone's renovating your full property, you don't want to be hiring anyone that has worked anything less than 2 years. And by the time, and the reason why I say 2 years is because by this time they would have had a lot of experience, they would have been familiar with all the regulations, and they would have been on the tools for a good amount of time to achieve a good standard, and they would have had a lot of experience in dealing with some mistakes along the way. So minimum of 2 years is a good idea. But when you are speaking with the contractor, get them to talk about projects that they've done, and you would be able to tell whether they're passionately talking about it or whether it's just another job. And because you do want to hire someone that is passionate about being in the building industry, because they like to achieve what they're doing. They like to build stuff. So you really want to, you really want to speak to them and see whether you can get the feeling of that they're passionate about their work. Okay, so number 2 is, do you work with your own team or hire subcontractors? Now, the reason why I've mentioned this is because you have got 2 types of building companies. You have got building companies that are really big, that have got a load of staff that they hire all year round and pay a monthly salary, whether there is work or whether there isn't. And then you've got building companies that have people that work for them, but are not employed by them. They just pay them for each job that they do, and they're called subcontractors. And the reason why that's a preferred way to go for building companies is because the building industry is seasonal, and they are not committed to constantly employing those people and paying them a monthly salary, whether there is work or whether there isn't. So they only have to pay them and only have to hire them when there is work. There's a few downsides to that because they are subcontractors. They're self-employed, and if there was any mistakes on the job, then they could literally walk off. And if it was very serious, they could walk off. And that's happened in the past to myself when I've had a building company where the subcontractor has walked off site, turned his phone off. I've never seen him again. And we learned from that in having a building company, and went through a very serious vetting process after that, and ever since that, really, a few years ago. So it's just about, they have their own, they're not liable to anyone, and that's the only thing that you need to consider when choosing a building company that works with subcontractors. Okay, so number 3 is, does your insurance meet the minimum requirement for this work, and can I have a copy? Always ask for a copy of the insurance for the company that's doing work in your house. And there is a minimum requirement for any renovation that is being worked on, particularly in the UK, which is 5 million public liability and 10 million employers' liability. It's important that you get to see a copy so that you can have a good read and understand whether they are definitely insured in doing the work for your house. And if you're in any doubt, then you should be asking them to contact their insurance company and get them to clarify the kind of work that they're going to be doing in your house. You don't want to be in a situation where if something happens, they have said that they are totally covered, and then you go to make a claim on their insurance and find out that they're not, then that you could be in a terrible situation there. So get a copy, have a good look through it, and ask any questions. Don't be afraid to ask any questions on the about the insurance as well. One thing about the insurance for the building company as well, if they're doing any designs for you, there is a specific insurance for that, and that's called professional indemnity insurance. And the reason why is because if they design something for you to fit in your home, a piece of furniture, and it goes wrong, or it's the wrong size, and you've just spent loads of money on that, then and it was related to the design that was wrong, then you can claim on their professional indemnity insurance and get the work corrected and redone again. Okay, so number 4, what times do you like to start work? Now, it's a good to ask this question, because you don't want to be in the shower or in your bathrobe making your breakfast, and then all of a sudden you get a bang on the door because they're wanting to start at 7 o'clock in the morning. Most building companies, from my knowledge over the years, have started work at 8 o'clock in the morning, and they finish around about 4, sometimes 5. And they would like to work on Saturdays as well sometimes, and probably start a little bit later, maybe 9 o'clock. So it's always good to just double check with them what time they're going to be turning up on site so that you can expect them. Maybe you make arrangements with them because you start work and you need to leave really early, so they need to be there beforehand. So have that question, get it really clear on what time to expect them on site at your property. Okay, so number 5 is, how will you be going about protecting my house from the work that you'll be doing? This is a good question to ask, and really get it covered, because you first of all, there's different types of protection, and you don't want to see someone, if you've got a really nice wooden floor that they're going to be walking through every day to do the work, you don't want to see just a simple painter's dust sheet going over the top of that, where it doesn't protect any walk or any tread, where there's going to be stones or bits of rubble that can dent the floor underneath. So you want to make sure that you know what areas that they're going to be protecting, how they're going to protect in it, and how when they're going to be protecting it and how long for. So again, how long they're going to be protecting it for, when they're going to be protecting it, and what areas. So they may be wanting to seal up some doors because of they're doing some dusty work, but you don't want your doors sealed up all the time if you're living there. So you do want to make sure that you understand how long that you're going to be inconvenienced for in your property, and what they're going to be using to seal the doors up as well. So just ask a little bit more detail about that. Number 6 is, can you give me a full specification of work and how long? Can you give me a full specification of work and the materials that you'll be using to do that work? Now, a full specification of work is literally an A to Z of in order of what they're going to be doing in a bit more detail than just this is what we're doing and this is the cost. You want to have it that broken down so you actually understand exactly what you're paying for, and then you want to know what materials they're going to be using. The reason why I say that is because there are low budget materials and there are decent quality materials on the market. And if you're paying good money, you don't want low quality materials being installed. And if you don't know what those materials are, then you're not going to be any the wiser whether they are low budget or whether they're good quality. So you want to be able to be given the chance to do your own research on the materials that they're going to be using. So you can go online, you can have a look, and you can check it all out and sum that up for yourself and be comfortable. Okay, so number 7 is, how long will the work take to do? You might want to make some arrangements. You might want to go and stay with family. You might want to go on holiday. So you do want to just ask them, how long do you think this work is going to take to do? And ask them to if they say 6 weeks, then allow 7, because things happen on a project. So you do want to be a little bit flexible with that. And if you make any arrangements, then let them know as well that you're not going to be around, you're going to be living with family or friends, because that's much better for a building company. If they know that the house is going to be vacant whilst they're doing the work, it's a much better situation for them. They don't have to totally tidy up and prepare safely for when you come home, so that they spend more time on doing the actual job in hand. But if you are living in the house, you do want to be in a position where you're able to live in the house. And if they're pulling out things like the toilet that you can't use and stuff like that, you really want to know how long that toilet's going to be out, so that you can just make some plans ahead of time. Okay, so number 8 is there anything I can do for you to keep the schedule on time? Maybe they have quoted that they're going to do it in a certain amount of time, but that's reliant on a few things. So you do want to get it really, really clear that if there's anything that you can do to keep it on schedule, then just they should ask you. A couple of things that would help with building companies is keeping the payments on time and keeping the cash flow flowing. So if they are doing a good job and they're ahead of the schedule or they're on schedule, then just make sure that you pay them on time, within time, so that they can pay their staff and continue the job with no queries. Obviously only do that if the job is going good. Before the job starts, you can empty the rooms or move furniture out the way. You don't want to be hiring someone to renovate your kitchen and they have to take out all of the cupboards and all of the cutlery and all of the tins of food and everything else. So, because that can take a whole day to do when they could be really getting on the job. Same with your bathroom, you can take everything out, all the shampoos, conditioners, toothbrush, everything else. Remove everything and then leave it to a shell where they can just rip out everything and start. Okay, so number 9 is, what are the most likely risk factors on the project and what are the likely costs? So a a couple of things I've got here from experience are updating a fuse board, doing a full rewire of the house, a new boiler. All of these things can cost quite substantially. So fuse board, let's just say they're just about to start work. They've not considered the fuse board, and it's out of date. It's not up to current regulations. So you do want to check if you need to replace it. Replacing a fuse board can start from £500. So it's quite a lot of money that could be spent somewhere else if you don't need to. So just confirm with the building company whether it's something that they need to be considering. A full rewire of the house, this is where all the old wires of the house are in, and they need to change everything to make it up to current regulations. That can cost about £3,000. Start from £3,000. So it's very expensive. And again, just make sure that you get all of that checked out first. And if it helps, speak to building control, get a project manager in that has some more knowledge than the contractor, and speak to the electrician directly about those matters, so that you can get real confirmation whether you need to do those changes or not. And again, with a new boiler as well, maybe you're having a new bathroom, a new kitchen, and the old boiler is not compatible, or will not be compatible, when you need to consider changing that. A good boiler these days can cost anything from £3,000, £3,500 to be installed. So it's a lot of money that you don't want to be shelling out if you don't have to. So just get all of that checked out. Okay, so number 10, final question is, do you have all you need to have to be happy with the quote that you've provided? Now, if they've given you a quote and they have based that quote just on coming around and having a look at the project and then taking all of the information from you about what you want done, and they've got no drawings, no images to support the information, then you could find yourself in a position where the building company can say, well, we didn't discuss that, or that's not supposed to be included in the quote, or something like that. And you don't want to find yourself in that position. It's best to hire a company that can provide you with some drawings, some layouts, some floor plans, some elevations, where it actually shows the position of the shower valve, of the bath taps, of the basin, of the toilet, all of these kind of things. You want to show the exact position, even the layout of the tiles, because it's just about communication. And if you can give all of that to the building company and you can say, right, this is exactly what I need, then they've got more information to provide more of an accurate quote. And from experience, that's the best thing to do. Give them all of those kind of drawings and images, so that they can make that, so they don't have to make any mistakes, and then they don't have to repeat the work twice. So it's going to cost you less in the long run as well. And that's about it, really. So just to summarize, you've got 10 questions that you can ask a contractor that you're just about to hire. I'll just mention the 10 questions again. How long have you been in business doing this work? Do you work with your own team or hire subcontractors? Does your insurance meet the minimum requirements for this work? And always ask for a copy. Number 4, what times do you like to start work? 5, how would you be going about protecting my house from the work that you'll be doing? Number 6, can you give me a full specification of work and the materials that you'll be using to do the work? Number 7, how long will the work take to do? Number 8, is there anything that I can do, that you can do, to keep the work on schedule? Number 9, what are the most likely risk factors of the project and the likely costs if they occur? And number 10, do you have all you need to have to be happy with the quote that you've provided? I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you did, then make sure you share the podcast make sure you share the podcast in general. You can go to iTunes or Stitcher and or any other podcasting hosting there, and just share it on social media. That'd be great. You can also come into our community on Facebook, which is facebook.com/groups/the Property Renovation Podcast. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the episode, and see you on the next one. Thank you very much.